Welcome, beloved souls. You are about to embark on a journey that will forever change your perception of existence itself. For millennia, humanity has lived under the greatest illusion of all, the illusion of mortality. But what if I told you that death, as you understand it, is nothing more than a carefully constructed dream from which you can awaken? Throughout history, mystics and seers have whispered of this great truth. Ancient Egyptian priests spoke of the sleeping dead, those who walk among us, trapped in a slumber so deep they mistake it for life itself. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes in detail how consciousness continues its eternal dance long after what we call death has occurred. Let me share with you the story of Dr. Richard Walker, a quantum physicist from Cambridge who spent 30 years searching for the boundaries between life and death. In his laboratory, he studied patients who had been declared clinically dead for several minutes, yet returned with vivid accounts of conversations they had overheard during their death. One patient, Sarah Chen, accurately described in detail the conversations of doctors who had been discussing their weekend plans while her body lay deceased on the operating table. Dr. Walker discovered that during these moments of clinical death, brain activity didn't cease. It transformed into frequencies he had never before recorded. It was as if the mind had unplugged from one reality and connected to another, he would later write in his controversial paper, which was subsequently banned by major scientific journals. But the evidence doesn't stop there. The phenomenon of quantum consciousness suggests that our awareness exists beyond the physical constraints of the brain. Consider the work of Dr. Stuart Hameroff and Sir Roger Penrose, who proposed that consciousness arises from quantum processes within brain cells. If consciousness operates at the quantum level, then according to quantum mechanics, it becomes observer and creator simultaneously, meaning consciousness cannot die, for it exists outside the realm of time and space. Are you beginning to feel it? That whisper in your soul that has always known this truth? The ancient mystics called it the remembrance. That moment when the veil begins to thin and you start to see reality for what it truly is. Here's the fundamental question that will guide us on this journey. If death is merely a transition, not an ending, then what are you transitioning from? And more importantly, what are you transitioning to? The answer may be far more profound than anything you've ever imagined. As we prepare to dive deeper into this revelation, I want you to consider this. Have you ever had moments in your life where time seemed to stop, where you felt utterly disconnected from your physical body, where you experienced a profound sense of oneness with the universe? These are not coincidences. These are glimpses through the veil, moments when your true nature breaks through the illusion. Every civilization has spoken of it, the moment when humanity fell from grace, when we lost our divine connection and became mortal beings. The ancient Vedic texts call it Maya, the cosmic illusion. The Gnostics referred to it as the fall. Edgar, the American mystic, saw it clearly in his visions. He witnessed souls entering physical bodies and immediately forgetting their eternal nature. Let me share with you the case of young Anna Petrova, a 5-year-old girl from Moscow who could speak fluent Sumerian despite never being exposed to the language. When researchers questioned her, she described in detail the temple ceremonies of ancient Sumer, the names of deities and specific rituals that could only be verified by archaeological discoveries made years after her revelations. Yet, on her 6th birthday, something remarkable happened. Overnight, she lost all knowledge of Sumerian and her memories of that ancient life. This amnesia is not coincidence. It's the great forgetting in action. Dr. Ian Stevenson's pioneering work at the University of Virginia documented over 3,000 cases of children who remembered past lives with verifiable details, specific addresses in remote villages, names of deceased relatives they'd never heard of, and even the location of buried treasures that were later found exactly where the children had described. Yet, as these children aged, the memories faded like morning mist before the rising sun. What's happening here? The veil is descending. Consciousness is being compressed into the illusion of linear time. Consider this startling truth. Every night when you sleep, you experience a small death. Your consciousness separates from the physical matrix. During these nocturnal journeys, you visit other dimensions, receive guidance from higher beings, and even access the Akashic records. the cosmic library of all knowledge. Have you ever wondered why you sometimes know things in dreams that you couldn't possibly know in waking life? This is your eternal self speaking, before the great forgetting reasserts itself upon awakening. The quantum physicists are now catching up to ancient wisdom. The double-slit experiment proves that reality only exists when observed, suggesting consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. But here's the shocking implication. If consciousness creates reality, then the reality of death itself is a creation of our limited consciousness. We have collectively agreed to the illusion of mortality. Think about it deeply. Why do children often remember past lives, but adults rarely do? Why do near-death experiencers report expanded consciousness and claim death is the most beautiful experience they've ever had? Why do meditation masters speak of transcending the cycle of birth and death, calling it an illusion? Because the great forgetting weakens when consciousness shifts from its usual frequencies. The indigenous shamans of the Amazon speak of the Great Sleep, a state where humanity collectively dreams itself into limitation. Aboriginal Australians discuss the dream time as the true reality, while our waking world is the illusion. Norse mythology speaks of Ragnarok, but few realize this isn't a future event, but a description of the consciousness fall that has already occurred. This forgetting serves a purpose. It allows the game of separation to continue. It creates contrast, drives evolution, pushes souls to seek remembrance. But the time of the Great Awakening has arrived. Children are being born with memories intact. Near-death experiences are becoming more common. Kundalini awakenings are happening spontaneously. The veil is thinning. I invite you to consider, what if every fear you have, every limitation you accept, every death you dread is simply part of this great forgetting? What if you are eternal beings who have temporarily forgotten your immortal nature? The evidence is mounting. Reality is not what it seems, and death is the greatest illusion ever perpetrated upon humanity's collective consciousness. We stand at the precipice of a monumental revelation where science and spirituality finally merge into one cosmic truth. For centuries, they appeared as opposing forces, yet recent discoveries prove they've been describing the same reality from different perspectives all along. Dr. Masaru Emoto's water crystal experiments showed how consciousness directly affects physical matter. When water was exposed to loving words or beautiful music, it formed intricate, harmonious crystals. With negative emotions, the crystals became distorted and chaotic. But here's what mainstream science overlooked. Death itself is just another frequency, another vibration that consciousness can transform. The Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory spent 28 years studying how human intention affects random number generators. Subjects could influence these machines with mere thought, proving consciousness operates beyond the physical brain. During global events where millions focused their attention simultaneously, like the September 11 attacks or the death of beloved public figures, the machines showed extraordinary deviations from randomness. These are not coincidences. They are consciousness events rippling through the fabric of reality. In 2016, the journal Science published groundbreaking research on quantum entanglement, particles that remain connected regardless of distance. When one particle's state changes, its partner instantly mirrors the change, even across the universe. This is identical to what ancient mystics described as akashic connections, the invisible threads linking all life. Death cannot sever these quantum bonds. Consciousness is entangled eternally. Nobel laureate Eugene Wigner suggested that consciousness collapses the wave function in quantum mechanics. This led to the mind-boggling implication that without conscious observation, matter exists only as probability waves. If consciousness creates physical reality, then death is merely our withdrawal from actively maintaining one particular version of reality. We don't cease to exist. We simply shift our observation point. Consider the work of Dr. Robert Lanza, a stem cell researcher who developed the theory of biocentrism. After studying biological systems for decades, he concluded that life creates the universe, not vice versa. Time and space are tools of the mind. Death is an illusion created by our belief that consciousness ends when the biological vessel ceases function. Here's a jaw-dropping revelation. Military remote viewing programs, declassified after the Cold War, demonstrated that trained operatives could accurately describe distant locations with supernatural precision. What wasn't declassified is that these viewers could also access information across time, viewing past events and future probabilities. If consciousness can transcend time and space in life, how could death possibly contain it? The Global Consciousness Project, a network of random number generators worldwide, detected anomalous spikes in their data during global meditations and mass prayer events. This proves that collective consciousness generates measurable effects on physical reality. Throughout history, accounts of mass appearances of the dead, like the angels of Mons or the Fatima apparitions, coincide with times when millions were focused on similar thoughts about mortality. Quantum physicist David Bohm proposed the implicate order, a dimension where information unfolds into our experienced reality. He suggested that what we perceive as death is merely information returning to this cosmic database, ready to unfold again in new forms. This aligns perfectly with Buddhist teaching of consciousness as waves in an infinite ocean. The convergence is undeniable. Ancient wisdom traditions, cutting-edge quantum physics, parapsychological research, and consciousness studies all point to the same truth. Reality is far more fluid than our limited perception suggests. Death is not an ending, but a transformation, a transition between states of consciousness that science is finally beginning to validate. As we stand at this crossroads, where sacred science meets spiritual truth, one question emerges. If death is indeed an illusion maintained by our limited perception, what happens when we finally see through it? The answer will shake the very foundation of everything you believe about existence itself. The moment of truth has arrived. Every piece of evidence, every ancient teaching, every scientific anomaly has led us to this singular revelation. You have never truly died, nor can you ever die. What we call death is merely the moment when consciousness remembers its true nature. Picture this. Imagine you've been wearing a virtual reality headset your entire life. The headset creates a convincing simulation where pain, joy, and eventually death feel absolutely real. But what happens when you finally remove the headset? The simulated death doesn't end your existence. It simply ends your identification with that particular simulation. In the archives of the University of Virginia, researchers documented the case of James Leininger, a 2-year-old who recalled being James Houston Jr., a World War II pilot shot down over the Pacific. He provided specifics about aircraft carriers, fellow pilots, and missions that were later verified as historically accurate. But here's the profound insight. James, present day, felt no trauma about his past death, only peace, because true consciousness knows death is impossible. Tibetan Buddhist masters demonstrate this truth through the practice of phawa, conscious death. They sit in meditation, willfully separate their consciousness from their physical body, and maintain full awareness throughout the transition. Some return to recount their experience, others continue onward by choice. This isn't supernatural, it's our natural birthright. Consider the implications of zero-point energy fields discovered by quantum physicists. These fields contain infinite energy, even in the vacuum of space. Consciousness taps into these fields constantly. When a body dies, the consciousness simply withdraws its focus from that particular point of attention. Like unplugging a lamp, the electricity, consciousness, continues flowing eternally. Dr. Voigt. Eben Alexander, a neurosurgeon, spent 7 days in a coma while his brain showed no activity. Yet he experienced the most vivid expansion of consciousness imaginable, meeting divine beings, understanding cosmic truths, and receiving profound teachings. Upon returning, sophisticated brain scans confirmed his neocortex had been completely offline. This proves consciousness exists independently of brain function. Throughout history, saints and sages have demonstrated the illusion of death through acts of conscious dying. Saint Joseph of Cupertino levitated before witnesses as he passed. The body of Saint Bernadette Soubirous remains incorrupt after 140 years. These aren't miracles. They're demonstrations of consciousness mastering the illusion of mortality. Now comes the transformative part. Once you truly grasp that death is impossible, fear dissolves. When fear dissolves, the veils of separation fall away. You begin to experience life as the eternal being you truly are. Synchronicities multiply, intuition sharpens, healing becomes instantaneous. You realize you've been living in just 5% of your full consciousness capacity. The return to light isn't about physical death. It's about awakening while fully alive. It's recognizing that every person you meet is another aspect of your own eternal consciousness. Every experience becomes sacred when seen through the lens of immortality. The mundane transforms into the miraculous. Ancient mystics called this samadhi, union with the infinite. Modern quantum physics calls it quantum coherence, when individual wave functions align with the universal field. They describe the same state, consciousness fully awakened to its deathless nature. Here's your invitation to eternity. Whenever fear arises, remember you are deathless. Whenever limitation appears, recall your infinite nature. Whenever separation seems real, know you are one with all existence. You are not a temporary visitor in a random universe. You are the universe awakening to itself. As we close this journey together, understand that reading these words wasn't coincidence. Your eternal self guided you here for remembrance. Every soul you encounter, every challenge you face, every moment of joy you experience, all are opportunities to recognize your true, deathless nature. The greatest secret has been revealed. You are already home. You have always been home. Death is merely consciousness temporarily forgetting this truth. Now that you remember, live as the eternal being you truly are. The universe awaits your full expression. Return to the light, dear soul. You never left. If this revelation has touched your soul, if you feel the ancient truth stirring within you, then you are ready for more. This is just the beginning of your journey to remember your true, eternal nature. Subscribe now to receive deeper teachings, exclusive meditations, and advanced consciousness practices that will guide you further along the path of awakening. In our next transmission, I'll share the 3 sacred techniques that masters use to maintain conscious awareness during the transition we call death. Join our growing community of awakened souls who are remembering their immortal essence and living from this profound truth. Every subscription brings more light into this world, accelerating the great awakening that is happening now. Click subscribe and activate the notification bell to stay connected with these life-changing revelations. Your eternal self has guided you here. Now take the next step on your path to full remembrance.